In level 5 of the pilot proficiency program, we start with backward circles. The guide suggests they may be as big as your flying field, but I guess that depends how big your flying field is. As long as the helicopter has a bit of speed and bank and you're flying the maneuver instead of locking the controls, it should be fine. There are two variations, from the left and from the right. The start and end points should be in the same place each time, directly in front of you, and the circle should be round with a constant speed and height. The wind can make this more difficult, but you should still be able to do this maneuver to a high level regardless. The backward figure 8 starts by flying past the center line before doing a 225-degree turn, so the model comes back at 45 degrees. It crosses the center line and then executes a 270-degree turn, so it comes back again at 45 degrees from the other direction. Then you do a small turn and exit along the same line you entered the maneuver. The second variation is flying backwards from the other side along the same track you just flew. So turn 45 degrees before you hit center, cross the middle and do a 270-degree turn. You should cross the center line going away at 45 degrees again. And into a 225-degree circle before exiting the maneuver along the same line you entered. Speed, height and size of the maneuver should be similar to the first one. The backward inside loop starts from straight and level flight. As it reaches you, pull up into a large round loop without drifting in or out, and it should exit at the same place it entered. The second variation is similar, but starting from the other direction. Wind direction can make these feel like very different maneuvers, but you will need to fly the model so the shape and size remains the same. Traveling backward rolls should be centered on your position, so as you roll, the helicopter should be inverted when in front of you. There are 4 variations you need to perform from the left and the right, and also with rolls away and towards. Most pilots will be more comfortable rolling one way than the other, so this is a good exercise to practice. The wind can also make this tricky, as rolling away doesn't need as much collective to maintain height, but rolling into wind means you'll need to apply the collective before you start the roll. Also, you don't want to be doing the roll at the maximum rate. This should be a nicely controlled axial roll with no loss of height or change of direction. Sustained backward inverted flight is similar to the first maneuver we did, only it's inverted now. The circle should be flown with speed and some bank angle, and the entry and exit points should be at the same place. At this level in the pilot proficiency program, you should be very comfortable with backward inverted. And this should feel really easy to give the circle a good shape and keep consistent height and speed. This will be from both directions. A good exercise for practicing these is a galaxy or spiral, where each circle gets smaller and the model goes slower and slower until you reach center. Then reverse it and come all of the way back out again. The backward inverted figure 8 is similar to the backward inverted 8 we did earlier. Cross the center line before starting the first turn and continue as we did before. And don't forget to reverse and do the figure 8 the other way as well. This maneuver is used a lot in proficiency programs and certifications, as it has turns in both directions, and in wind you'll need good control to keep them at the same height and size. Also, coming out of the circles and trying to cross at the same place can be really difficult when the model is being blown downwind on one leg and then upwind on the other. The crossover also tests you in other ways, as you are banked one way, have to level out and bank the other, all while keeping consistent speed and height. Not an easy move to do well, but you should be doing these with ease now you're at the basic 3D level. The inverted autorotation should start inverted at no less than 60 feet or 20 meters, either from the left or right. Before you hit throttle hold, you want to already be descending with a slight forward speed. You can roll at any point during the maneuver, so I've done it while still with decent height, so the head speed can come back up and stabilize before making the landing. For the other variation from the left, I've turned it around so that the autorotation is still into wind. You want to avoid doing downwind autorotations wherever you can. Make the roll and keep the forward speed and downward angle the same all the way down to the bottom. Into wind should make for a nice soft landing. Knife edge pirouettes start with straight and level flight, and just before going knife edge you want to add a bit of collective so the helicopter is moving up when you roll and do the pirouette. After the pirouette you want to descend slightly so you're back at the same level as where you started. For F3N you're allowed up to 15 degrees upward angle before making the quarter roll, but as long as it isn't a big climb it'll be fine for this test. There are 4 variations listed in the guide, with the directions being left and right, quarter rolls both ways, and also pirouette in both directions. Technically this means 8 variations, but I think any 4 will do. Apologies for the use of the sim here. The video I got for the knife edge pirouettes didn't turn out very well, and the weather isn't good enough for a reshoot at the moment. The death spiral starts from a high hover, does a quarter roll to knife edge, and 3 elevator flips on the way down. There are 4 variations here, starting with a left or right roll, and also forward or backward elevator. When starting with a left roll, you'll need to start higher than when you start right. That's because the tail thrust will be pushing the model down instead of lifting, and you'll find the helicopter will drop a lot faster and further this way. I can't say I've ever had to do all 4 variations, as most people learn one and don't bother with the rest. So this was a good exercise in getting them right, especially with having to counter a bit of wind on the way down. The usual way to exit these at the bottom is to apply collective and turn it into a funnel. The next maneuver is blades in Tic Tocs. You'll need to do at least 5 Tic Tocs in each of the 4 orientations. The tail thrust is an important factor, even when there isn't much wind. In some directions it will allow you to keep the tail straight and everything works well. Then in another direction you'll be fighting the thrust. You shouldn't be leaning the tail over to counter the wind and thrust, so you'll need to learn how to do it without lean. I've covered that in my video on controlling Tic Tocs. There's a link in the description in case you need to have a look at that. The tail thrust has an effect when the model is horizontal too. You'll find you'll be using more cyclic when the nose is pointing right. These Tic Tocs should all be at a constant height and shouldn't drift in or out much. The vertical 8 is basically an outside loop on top of an inside loop. This is more difficult than expected as it all happens with the model very high. After the first half loop you want to keep it flat as you add collective, and as it follows the loop you can start pushing it over. The speed back down has to be controlled, so you'll need to be very good at both the inside and outside loop. And then on top of that you need to stop it drifting in or out. The 4 variations needed for this proficiency program are left and right, as well as forwards and backwards. It is worth spending a bit of time on this maneuver, as it is used in a few certifications and competitions. There is something called a standing 8, which is a vertical 8 with a half pirouette at the top. Getting the shape right will also help when you move on to globes. You'll need to have an understanding of should the nose be level or down when entering subsequent loops, and managing the speed will be important too. For tumbles, you want to start from straight and level flight. There are going to be 3 of them, and you want them to be centered. So you should be inverted as you cross the center line in front of yourself during the second tumble. There are 4 variations from the left and right, as well as backward and forward tumbles. You don't want to enter these too fast, as you'll need to be more aggressive on the collective to keep forward speed, but also more careful on the backward tumbles, otherwise you'll gain height. A really good practice maneuver is to do these in a circuit or figure 8. I cover them in my figure 8 exercises video, which I'll link to in the description. The height and speed should be consistent across each of the tumbles, and you want to keep them in a nice straight line. You can also try them as sideways flips for some extra difficulty. You'll see this being used a lot by the top pilots, as it's a nice hard maneuver to get right, especially in wind. So this was part 5 of the RCHN pilot proficiency program, Basic 3D. This episode mostly covered inverted forwards and backwards flight and aerobatics, as well as a few advanced maneuvers like inverted autos and Tic Tocs. The links to the RCHN and IRCHA programs are in the description below, and if you have any questions, please write them in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to get the next episode as soon as it comes out. Until next time.